Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys joining me for today's video. And I know there's a ton of other YouTube channels for you guys to spend your time watching, so I really appreciate you guys choosing Intuitive Angling here. Very grateful for that, and definitely never take that for granted. Guys, today we're going to be talking about squarebill crankbait fishing, and we're going to be talking about how most all anglers don't do it the right way. I mean, you can catch fish on any lure out there if you don't do it the right way. But in order to maximize the efficiency of a lure and to get its full potential, you got to be able to master everything about it. So we're going to go over a lot of different stuff with squarebills in today's video. And one of the things about this that I don't quite understand is a lot of the videos I've done on crankbaits over the past couple of years, they don't seem to get many views. And I don't understand that, because crankbait fishing is one of the most, it's definitely in the top 3 of the best techniques to catch bass in. And a lot of people think that they know more about crankbait fishing than what they do. They think you just throw it out there and reel it in, you're going to catch one. That's not the case. So guys, I'm going to give you a bunch of good tips today on catching bass on squarebill crankbaits throughout the year. So we're getting that in today's video. Also guys, just want a quick invitation out there. Just like to invite everybody. A good way to support the channel here at Intuitive Angling is simply to subscribe to the channel and use the notification bell out there so you don't miss any videos. Right now, not even half the people that watch these Intuitive Angling videos are subscribed to the channel. So that's a good way to help the channel out. Really appreciate there. Okay guys, squarebill crankbaits have been around forever, man. I've got, let me actually see, yeah, I've got some of the real old ones here. They've been around since the 70s, and I've got some super old ones. Let me see if I should have dug one out. But like, for example, like this right here. This is one of the originals. This is the old Bagley Balsa B3, and this has been catching fish for 50 years. And this was the mainstay in squarebill crankbait fishing up until pretty recently. It's really up until about 15 or 20 years ago where lure manufacturers started making squarebill crankbaits other than wood balsa like this. And now about every lure manufacturer out there has a plastic version. So we're going to get into a little bit on which to use on both of those. But the technology has really improved as far as the like the balancer systems, the colors, the actions that they have on there, and everything that goes along with it. Now, first of all, let me explain. Here's what a lot of people don't understand about squarebill crankbait fishing. They think that you just throw a squarebill crankbait out there and you just reel it in like that and it wiggles like a crankbait. The number one key to a good squarebill crankbait, this is the one that I've used all the time, guys. We worked on this for 2 years designing it. It's the megabass S crank. They got 3 different sizes. And also, guys, I'll include my squarebill crankbait link in the description of this video. If you guys want to pick up some, using that link's a good way to support the channel also. But we worked for about 2 years on the S crank here to get it to swing. And what I mean by swing is the bait runs like this through the water. So instead of just like going through the water column just like that, the S crank and some other crankbaits, like this is the one my buddy Dave Ryan makes, a custom balsa bait, they swing as you reel them side to side. So what this happens is you're reeling this thing along the bottom like that, and all of a sudden it hits an object like a piece of wood and it deflects off to the side and then comes back. And it's always fighting to try to get to the center, but it varies like that. This is the number one strike generator in a squarebill crankbait that separates it from other type of crankbaits. The squarebill is the only lure that swings upon deflection, and that is why it's so effective in shallow water situations. And a lot of people don't understand that. There's a lot of squarebill crankbaits out there, different manufacturers make them like this, that they just run through the water just uniform like that. And you can catch fish on them, don't get me wrong, but to maximize the efficiency of a squarebill and to get the most bites out of it, you've got to choose a squarebill crankbait that swings like that. And the megabass model and homemade models are really the only 2 models out there that I know that is responsible for that. We have this right here, this Edwin Evers and myself worked on this for 2 years, getting the thing just perfectly right with megabass. Okay, that's the number one thing that a lot of people don't understand. The number 2 thing about a squarebill crankbait is the speed of retrieve is super critical along with that deflection. Now the deflection that occurs on a squarebill crankbait can come on, whatever. It can come on wood, it can come on rock, can come on any type of a thing. But you're gonna notice, with the exception of reeling a squarebill crankbait next to like a log or a boat dock or something like that in dirty water, most of your strikes will come upon hitting something like a rock, a log, a stump, something like that where it deflects. So we'll get into what actually generates that strike. So a lot of how you fish a squarebill, as far as the cadence and the speed to retrieve, has to do with your water clarity and your water temperature. Now, to me, a squarebill crankbait is a key lure anytime the water temperature is over 55 degrees. You've got a lot of different transitions on how to fish a squarebill. I first start fishing a squarebill in the springtime of the year during the pre-spawn when that water temperature hits 55 degrees. Now, if you have a combination of, say, 55 or 60 degree water during the pre-spawn, and you've got water visibility anywhere between, say, 1 to 2 feet of visibility, which is perfect, this is a prime time of year to catch fish on a squarebill crankbait, cranking it on any type of steep rocky banks. That's what the fish use in the early spring. So bluff banks, channel banks, riprap, all really good areas for a squarebill crankbait. But one of the keys to that, in order to catch them on a squarebill on rock in the pre-spawn, is you've got to be hitting something. You've got to be hitting the bottom. So you always want to target your cast to where it's knocking that rock on the bottom. So therefore, a lot of it has to do with fishing the bait parallel to the bank. So depending upon the slope of the bank you have, I'm always casting this squarebill right parallel to the bank, and sometimes I've got to get super close to the bank based upon how steep it is, and I'm trying to hit that 3 to 5 foot of water. Most squarebill crankbaits, depending upon the size of them, are going to run 3 to 5 feet deep, depending upon the length of your cast and the pound test. But I'm always trying to figure out how I can get that squarebill crankbait down to the deepest point during the pre-spawn. So therefore, a lot of times in the springtime of the year, I'm using the squarebill crankbait on a little bit lighter line and making longer casts. So say, for example, if I've got the megabass S crank here, I may put it on like 10 to 12 pound test line, and I make long casts down those steep banks. And with 10 to 12 pound test line, I can get it down into that 4 to 5 foot zone where those bigger pre-spawn fish live. And most of the time when the water temperature is that, I'm using it just some medium fast retrieve. Even if the water temperature is a little bit cooler, you're going to catch a lot more fish on a squarebill crankbait if you have a medium fast retrieve, stop and go. That's going to be a big player with it. Now, as the water temperature warms up, and when that water temperature starts getting above 70 and on into the summertime and on into the early fall, this is another really, really good time to fish a squarebill crankbait. And the difference between that is, again, you have to target shallow cover with the dirty water out there, but the speed of retrieve is super, super critical. Once that water temperature gets above 70, 75 degrees and on in close to 80 degrees, this is when you burn a squarebill crankbait. We've talked about this quite a bit on the channel before, but I don't think a lot of people understand when I talk about burning a squarebill crankbait, what it is. When you're burning a squarebill, you cast it out there, and you're not just reeling it as fast as you can like that. You're casting it out there, and depending upon the structure that you're fishing, that alters the speed of retrieve. So let's say, for example, there's a laydown log in the water, and the water visibility is 1.5 feet. Perfect scenario for squarebill in the summertime. I'm going to make my cast, probably 10 foot past that log. I'm going to try to get parallel to that log. Specifically, if there's some shade getting thrown off that log, I want to come down that shade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reel that crankbait at a medium speed until that crankbait hits the log or hits the part where the shade is. And once it hits the shade, I'm going to speed it up, burn it, and stop and go just like that. And I'm going to make, repeated casts just like that, stop and go, burning it. So this thing is just like, it's swinging side to side and it's coming through the water just crazy like that. And another thing with that is once you do that, you have got to make repeated casts to the same cover. Anytime the water temperature is over 75 degrees, and it could be anywhere between like May to September or something like that, very seldom are you going to catch a good fish on your first cast to a piece of cover. So if you're casting to a tree, a laydown, the edge of a boat dock, the edge of a grass bed, whatever cover you're fishing, most of the time you're going to have to make multiple presentations with that squarebill crankbait to generate that strike. So here's a prime example. Say you've been catching a few, you're back in this creek arm, and you're picking up a few here and there on a square bill. You're catching one off a log here, you're catching one off a section of rocky bank, and then you come to this really good looking log. Say it's a big fat log, it's got some deep water next to it, and you make a couple casts to it and you don't catch a fish. Guys, I can promise you, if you caught a fish down that bank or anywhere close to that log, there is a big fish sitting on that log. So what you have to do with the square bill is you have to make not only repeated casts to that piece of cover, but you have to come at that cover from different angles. So let's say, for example, this is a log in the water right here. You know, you may make 5 or 6 casts down this side of it, 5 or 6 casts down that side of it, coming from this direction. Bring your boat around the other side, make 5 or 6 casts coming from this direction, and then make some casts over the top of the log, especially if it's barely under the water, and just try to hit it from as many different angles as you can. Because you don't really know where that fish is positioned at. You don't know where its head's at, you don't know where its tail's at, you don't know the mood and the personality of the fish. And what I have found in summertime cranking that a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually piss a fish off. You can actually cast so many times in there without a bite, and eventually they just get tired of it and they slam it. A lot of times, if I'm really focused on squarebill fishing, I'll have 3 or 4 different colors and sizes out. Sometimes, say for example, if I throw the big size like this, I may make 15 or 20 casts with it in the purge pattern. Then I may try 3 or 4 casts with a shad pattern. If that doesn't work, I'll downsize and I'll throw a smaller version of it in different colors. And varying that and letting those fish see different profiles and different colors on the same piece of cover, that's the difference between a master squarebill angler and people that just struggle with catching squarebills. Don't expect to go out there with just one squarebill and think it's going to you're just gonna be able to fish it all day long. You got to change the size of your squarebill, the profile of it, and the colors of it repeatedly throughout the day, repeatedly on the same piece of cover. And when I'm talking about 99 out of 100 anglers don't fish it right, that's what I'm talking about, is they don't use that diversity of lure profile and color. Another thing with squarebill crankbaits, guys, is really important is you got to have the right rod setup. A lot of the really good squarebill guys that I know, including like my buddy Dave Ryan that makes the homemade, he uses monofilament line because he wants that stretch on a short cast. But I have found in my own situation, I use a medium action rod. I use that megabass launcher rod, which is a medium action parabolic tip. And I'll usually use it on anywhere between 12 to 25 pound test Seagar and Vizx line. And that fluorocarbon line with the soft rod allows a little bit of extra hesitation when that fish inhales the bait, and you'll be able to get the fish a lot more. Another thing with squarebills, guys, is make sure that you don't use too big hooks. A lot of people try to put too big hooks on a squarebill. If you put too big of a hooks, there's the dang helicopter. Every freaking video, guys, that helicopter will come over. I don't care if I'm out here at midnight, that helicopter is gonna fly over during the video. But anyway, back to the hooks, guys. Make sure that you go a little bit smaller on hooks because there's a couple of different reasons. Number one, larger hooks is gonna affect the action of the bait. Smaller hooks is gonna allow the bait to look more lively. And then also on a large hook, you're gonna have a larger diameter of wire there, which makes it more difficult for penetration. I have found out that if I go a little bit smaller than normal on my squarebill crankbait hooks, that I get a lot better hookups with that. But the main thing, guys, if I could give you, the best piece of advice I can give you on squarebill fishing, like I said, fish it on the right equipment, make sure you have a diversity of colors and profiles, make repeated casts, make accurate casts, and experiment with your speed to retrieve and your cadence. That's all those factors together. It's gonna be the difference between you going out there and catching just a couple fish all day long on a squarebill or going out there and just absolutely ripping them. So makes a big difference. But again, guys, squarebill works all year long except for the winter time. Anytime the water temperature is over 55, it doesn't matter if it's March or December, they're gonna bite the thing. Also, squarebills will work good over the top of grass beds under certain situations. I've caught that. But in general, I prefer, again, water visibility, 1 to 2 feet, some combination of wood and rock, one of the best lures out there. So anyway, guys, check out these S-Cranks in my Tackle Warehouse description. This is the premium squarebill on the market, the best one out there in my opinion. Definitely gets you some good bites. So talk later.